I'm doing this for the thumbnail so I won't have a face like I did. Hey y'all, GrannyDee here with Flat Sammy and Rocky. Right, you know I'm still waiting on my youngins to help. Ooh, got Nutty Buddy standing on his head. Sorry, Liliana, who gave me Nutty Buddy. Karen, who gave me this. And Kathy, who gave me that. And Jane with the Way Cool sign, and Sue with the Way Cool lights, and Lisa with the Way Cool scarf, and y'all just been way too sweet to me. GrannyDee found yet another whip. Y'all would not believe how many I have. It ain't that pretty. It's going to be a psychedelic hat. And I love this yarn. It's Hobby Lobby's, but it's soft. They're Yarn Bees Soft Secret. And I'm sure I probably got this on clearance, so it doesn't show, but it was $4.49 at one time. And the color is Plum Passion 208. And like I say, I'm not sure if they still have that, but isn't it pretty? And look how it pulls in the hat. I'm just doing a little beanie. I just do like cast on 72 stitches and do my 2x2 rib, knit 2, purl 2 for about 1.5 or inch, however long, 2, whatever. And then all this is just knit. When you knit in the round, it's like you're doing the stockinette. As if, you know, you would have to, if you were doing it on straight needles, knit one row and purl on the other, on the wrong side. Knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side to make the stockinette stitch. But when you knit in the rounds, it makes the stockinette stitch because you're going in a spiral. But you're just knitting all the stitches. You don't have to purl. I don't mind purling, but for those of you who do, knitting in the round is way cool. I just was watching Joe's Web and she gave me the sweetest shout out. Thank you, Joe. I love you too. I love you all. And let me say mwah, to my youngins and grand-youngins. They know who they are. I won't call out names this time. Y'all, last time, I gotta find out where we are, and I should have done this before I come on, because I don't need to waste 1 minute. And yes, I probably have hoots and hollers to do, and I probably said I know I told somebody I was going to do them with the next one. Ooh, I'll have to do the next one, because I didn't bring my little book in here. But anyway, last night I read, you know, we had started chapter 4, but that I picked up last night and read all of chapter 4. And I started reading chapter 5. And I had to perform, you know, it took forever and ever and ever for it to upload. You know, it does, what does it do? Processing, preparing, uploading, then processing. Takes for flipping ever. Anywho, waited for all that, only to get an error message. So I figured that meant I had to go back and just do it in 15 minutes, because it was over 30 minutes. It was about 32 minutes worth. And so I did a little surgery on it and cut it in half. GrannyDee ought never try to perform surgery with my difficulties with technology lately, but yeah, I got the first part on all right, but the second part I guess I inadvertently deleted. So here I am trying to find where, and like I say, I should have looked for this before I came on, cause doggone it. I know I said something about Becky was the last thing I said. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go, maybe. Okay. Shoot, I may leave out part, or I may go back over something, but here we go. they were in church and Sunday school. The visitors were given the highest seat of honor, and as soon as Mr. Walters' speech was finished, he introduced them to the school. The middle-aged man turned out to be a prodigious personage, no less a one than the country judge. Altogether the most august creation these children had ever looked upon, and they wondered what kind of material he was made of, and they half wanted to hear him roar, and were half afraid he might. Sorry about the sun. He was from Constantinople, not the one you're thinking about, 12 miles away, so he had traveled and seen the world. These very eyes had looked upon the county courthouse, which was said to have a tin roof. The awe which these reflections inspired was attested by the impressive silence and the ranks of staring eyes. This was the great Judge Thatcher, brother of their own lawyer. Jeff Thatcher immediately went forward to be familiar with the great man and be envied by the school. It would have been music to his soul to hear the whisperings. Look at him, Jim. He's a-going up there. Say, look, he's a-going to shake hands with him. He is shaking hands with him. By jings, don't you wish you was, Jeff? Mr. Walters fell to showing off with all sorts of official bustlings and activities, giving orders, delivering judgments, discharging directions here and there and everywhere that he could find a target. The librarian showed off, running hither and thither with his arms full of books, and making a deal of the splutter and fuss that insect authority delights in. The young lady teachers showed off, bending sweetly over pupils that were lately being boxed, lifting pretty warning finger and boxed. You know, like get your ears boxed, I guess. Lifting pretty warning fingers at bad little boys, yep, and patting good ones lovingly. The young gentleman teachers showed off with small scoldings and other little displays of authority and fine attention to discipline. And most of the teachers of both sexes found business up at the library by the pulpit, and it was business that frequently had to be done over and over again, 2 or 3 times with much seeming vexation. The little girls showed off in various ways, and the little boys showed off with such diligence that the air was thick with paper wads and murmur of scufflings. And above it all, the great man sat and beamed a majestic judicial smile upon all the house, and warmed himself in the sun of his own grandeur, for he was showing off too. There was only one thing wanting to make Mr. Walters' ecstasy complete, and that was a chance to deliver a Bible prize and exhibit a prodigy. Several pupils had a few yellow tickets, but none had enough. He had been around among the star pupils inquiring. He would have given worlds now to have that German lad back again with a sound mind. And now at this moment, when hope was dead, Tom Sawyer, remember the tickets that Tom had, came forward with 9 yellow tickets, 9 red tickets, and 10 blue ones, and demanded a Bible. This was a thunderbolt out of a clear sky. Walters was not expecting an application from this source for the next 10 years. Oh, I am sorry about this. I can't do anything with that blind. It's on the other side. Where was I? Not expecting it for 10 years. But there was no getting around it. Here were the certified checks, and they were good for their face. And by checks, they mean the tickets. Tom was therefore elevated to a place with the judge and the other elect, and the great news was announced from headquarters. It was the most stunning surprise of the decade, and so profound was the sensation that it lifted the new hero up to the judicial one's altitude. And the school had 2 marvels to gaze upon in place of 1. The boys were all eaten up with envy, but those that suffered the bitterest pangs were those who perceived too late that they themselves had contributed to this hated splendor by trading tickets to Tom for the wealth he had amassed in selling whitewashing privileges. These disguised themselves as being the dupes of a wily fraud, a guileful snake in the grass. The prize was delivered to Tom with as much effusion as the superintendent could pump up under the circumstances. But it lacked somewhat of the true gush, for the poor fellow's instinct taught him that there was a mystery here that could not well bear the light. Perhaps it was simply preposterous that this boy had warehoused 2,000 sheaves of scriptural wisdom on his premises. A dozen would strain his capacity without a doubt. Amy Lawrence was proud and glad, and she tried to make Tom see it in her face, but he wouldn't look. She wondered. Then she was just a grain troubled. Next, a dim suspicion came and went, came again. She watched. A furtive glance told her worlds, and then her heart broke. And she was jealous and angry, and the tears came, and she hated everybody, Tom most of all. Tom was introduced to the judge, but his tongue was tired. His breath had hardly come. I think I am repeating this. His breath would hardly come. His heart quaked, partly because of the awful greatness of the man, but mainly because he was her parent. He would have liked to fall down and worship him if it were in the dark. The judge put his hand on Tom's head and called him a fine little man and asked him what his name was. The boy stammered, gasped, and got it out. Tom? Oh, no, not Tom. It is Thomas? Ah, that's it. I thought there was more to it, maybe. That's very well. But you've another, I dare say, and you'll tell it to me, won't you? Tell the gentleman your other name, Thomas, said Walters, and say, sir. You mustn't forget your manners. Thomas Sawyer, sir. That's it. That's a good boy. Fine, manly little fella. 2,000 verses is a great many. Very, very great. A very, very great many. And you never can be sorry for the trouble you took to learn them, for knowledge is worth more than anything there is in the world. It's what makes great men and good men. And you'll be a great man and a good man yourself someday, Thomas. And then you'll look back and say, it's all owing to the precious Sunday school privileges of my boyhood. It's all owing to my dear teachers that taught me to learn. It's all owing to the good superintendent who encouraged me and watched over me and gave me a beautiful Bible, a splendid, elegant Bible to keep and have it, all for my own always. It's all owing to right bringing up. That's what you will say, Thomas. And you wouldn't take any money for those 2,000 verses. No, indeed, you wouldn't. And now you wouldn't mind telling me and this lady some of the things you learned. No, I know you wouldn't, for we are proud of little boys that learn. Now, no doubt you know the names of all 12 disciples. Won't you tell us the names of the first 2 that were appointed? Tom's in trouble now. Tom was tugging at a buttonhole and looking sheepish. He blushed now, and his eyes fell. Mr. Walters' heart sank within him. He said to himself, it's not possible that the boy could answer the simplest question. Why did the judge ask him? Yet he felt obliged to speak and say, answer the gentleman, Thomas. Don't be afraid. Tom still hung fire. Now, I know you'll tell me, said the lady. The names of the first two disciples were David and Goliath. Let us draw the curtain of charity over the rest of the scene. That's the end of chapter 4, and I'll have to stop there because we're almost at 15 minutes. So let me stop, put this on, then I'll come back and read some more. Love y'all. See you in a bit.